Easter egg hunts are awesome. You get to go and find all these delicious packets of chocolate and other candy goodness if you know where to look. And the MPEP is a lot like that, actually. There are these little nuggets of delicious, wonderful wisdom if you know where to look and find them in the document. Of course, the MPEP, like eggs, sometimes it can be rotten, and you'll find some things in there that are definitely not suitable for consumption. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about a couple of Easter eggs and a couple of rotten eggs from the MPEP. So in support of the Easter theme, we do have some eggs representing the different parts of the MPEP. So let's take a look. We have number one here. This is going to be, oh, look at that. It's a little beautiful chick. Chick. This is a lovely Easter egg. Parte Chicago Rawhide Manufacturing Company. So that is a case very, very useful when dealing with someone who argues that simply rearranging parts is per se obvious, because what it says is the mere fact that a worker in the art could rearrange parts of a reference device to meet the terms of the claims is not by itself sufficient to support a finding of obviousness. The prior art must provide a motivation or a reason for the worker in the art without the benefit of the applicant's specification to make the necessary changes in the reference device. That is from the Board of Patent Appeals and Interferences, 1984. True statement then, true statement now. So why do I call that one, though, an Easter egg, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward, you know. You don't need to do a lot of hunting, or you wouldn't, except that case is no longer in the MPEP. Yes, it was included in the MPEP up to the 2020 revisions to the 9th edition, at which point it was removed. So you got to do a little bit of a deep cut, to do some searching to find that particular bit of deliciousness in the MPEP. So we got an Easter egg. Let's see if what we have next. We got a nice green one. This is, oh, yuck, filled with bugs. We got a dragonfly, some worms, gross. This is going to be putrid. Oh, MPEP 2141, gross. All right. So, MPEP 2141. Yeah, this is not a nice one. This is about the patent examiner basically saying, hey, there's an element in your claim. It is not found in the prior art, but I'm going to say it would have been just common sense to add it. And the MPEP refers to Arendi versus Apple. That's 832 F3rd 1355 Federal Circuit 2016 for this proposition. And here's what they quote from Arendi. They say, we conclude that while common sense can be invoked, even potentially to supply a limitation missing from the prior art, it must still be supported by evidence and a reasonable explanation. And this is particularly true where the missing limitation goes to the heart of the invention. So that is an interesting quote, but it's kind of a butchery of Arendi, because Arendi was not saying that you can use common sense. What it was doing is it was saying, look, there was this previous case, Perfect Web, where they used common sense to supply a missing limitation. And what Arendi was doing was saying, look, yeah, they did that, but you basically should never do that. It can only be done in the very limited circumstances. So here's a quote from Arendi that's, I think, a lot better, which was at page 1362. In Perfect Web, the only case where the appellees identifies common sense was invoked to supply a limitation missing from the prior art. The limitation was unusually simple, and the technology was particularly straightforward. There, the missing claim limitation, step D, in a method of steps A through D, was nothing more than a instruction to repeat steps A, B, and C until a quantity of email was sent in accordance with the claim. And in that case, of course, the Federal Circuit said Perfect Web doesn't apply because it wasn't super simple, and it wasn't just a repetition of existing limitations. And in fact, I would argue that Perfect Web isn't really about a missing limitation. It's about limitations that were there that were just repeated. Now, even then, Arendi says you still need to have a reasoned explanation for why you would add the repetition, but ultimately, what Arendi says is not, oh yeah, you can use some common sense. It says, look, if you're going to use common sense, it has to be in extremely narrow circumstances. Basically, the only time is where you've already got the thing, it's just you're repeating it, and it has to be very simple technology. None of that is reflected in the MPEP, so yeah, 2141, discussion of common sense. Not fit for consumption. That is a rotten egg for sure. All right, what do we got next? Let's see. Is this going to be a nice one or a gross one? Oh, we got a good one. MPEP 608.01, filled with lovely little chocolates. There's a little Hershey's Kiss right here. Delicious. All right, so this one is nice. This actually was something that really improved my prosecution practice. And I came upon this, so I'd obviously, right, you read through the MPEP, you learn about stuff when you are going to take the patent bar. So I'm sure I had read this before, but it took me years in my practice to really internalize this, and I kind of came up with it independently. Then I found it again in the MPEP. Don't go through that malarkey. Don't be me. Just do this from the outset. And that is, they say, look, many of the difficulties encountered in the prosecution of patent applications after the final rejection may be alleviated if each applicant includes, at the time of filing and no later than the first reply, claims varying from the broadest to which he or she believes he or she is entitled to the most detailed which he or she is willing to accept. This is great advice. I would actually go even farther than this and say, look, this should be in your initial filing, or at least before your first office action. Maybe you do it as a preliminary amendment. The reason is because, hey, you put in the stuff and you think you've got those claims, right? The broadest to the narrowest. And if that's true, then if you get a rejection, you just can say, hey, we should just go to an appeal. But why do I say you should do that, even before you get your first action? And that is, you can't really predict what the examiner is going to say. So, you write up your claims. If you have it before the first action, they say, well, I'm interpreting your claims in this different, unexpected manner. You still have a chance to amend it so that when you get to that final rejection, you've got claims from the broadest to the narrowest in language that the examiner should accept. And if they don't, fine, either appeal or say, hey, the examiner's right. I guess I'm not going to get this patent. But in any case, it will alleviate many of the difficulties encountered in prosecution after final rejection. So yeah, that's a good one. Delicious, nutritious, much more so than chocolate. But yeah, MPEP 608.01M, form of claims. That's a good one that I think is a good practice tip. And so let's see what the final one is. I'm hoping for deliciousness. We got a nice little yellow egg, and it is, oh no, filled with bugs, gross. Oh, MPEP 214404-6C. Oh, yuck. Yeah, that is supporting a rejection for obviousness using precedent. And in particular, that's a rearrangement of parts, citing in re Japixi 181 F 2nd 1019 CCPA 1950. So immediately when I cite that case, alarm bell should be ringing, right? Because it says 1950. That's before the 1952 Act that added obviousness. I mean, how can you cite a case from before the obviousness for dealing with obviousness? It is insane. You should never be citing a pre-1952 case for obviousness. I mean, I guess in theory there might be scenarios, but this isn't one of them. This is just ridiculous. Additionally, that is totally wrong, right? We talked about Ex Parte Chicago earlier, which said, hey, you can't just rearrange parts. You need some kind of motivation. You can't just say it's per se obviousness because they could have rearranged it, because it would have been possible to rearrange. This is gross, not fit for consumption. There are cases after that. Unigene versus Apotex is another one where it says, look, you can't just say you got the things in the prior art. You have to show it would have been obvious to put them together in the way that they are, or in the way that they're claimed. So yeah, rearrangement of parts, MPEP 214404-6C, gross, not fit for consumption, truly one of the rotten eggs from the MPEP. But overall, I'd say MPEP is good, right? Very similar to Easter eggs. You got a lot of your workhorses. It just lays things out. It's like your hard-boiled eggs where you get, there's some nutrition there, some good stuff. You got some delicious little nuggets every so often, like Ex Parte Chicago. or the MPEP 608.01M. And then you got your real stinkers. Yuck, your this reversal, duplication, rearrangement of parts, or that office's fact finders putting things in common sense with the just ridiculous citation to a Rendy, which gross, gross, gross. But, you know, take the good and the bad. You can't trust it unquestioningly, but there's certainly some value there, and I hope you can make the best of the MPEP using all those little Easter eggs and avoiding the rotten eggs as much as possible. So anyway, happy Easter. I hope everyone has good Easter eggs, good Easter, and good patent prosecution and good patents. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.